archeologists, scholars, scientists, they have no clue what these objects are. And it's kind of ironic once you know what they actually are. First, you have to find out how do myth and memory and sending messages across time connect up. Everyone thinks that myths are just made up malarkey that people who were magical thinkers used to explain a world that they didn't understand. But we are the ones who are myth understanding. The truth is that stories are like a memory bank for your knowledge. And each one is encoded with layers and layers and layers of information. That with just one myth, you could send multiple messages and tons of information, and you're doing it all at the same time. And the information that they store is rational, it's practical, it's useful. It's just disguised as a story. And so you would know tons of these songs because you'd have a story song for everything, right? But story songs are not the only way that our ancestors remembered information. There's actually another ingenious technology that Dr. Kelly found out about. And it explains something we don't understand. Have you ever seen these? The Folkestone drums? Or these mysterious Roman thingamajigs? Or what about the unexplainable Towie balls? Archaeologists, scholars, scientists, they have no clue what these objects are. And it's kind of ironic once you know what they actually are. So Dr. Kelly said that when she showed the Towie balls to her Australian Aboriginal teachers, they go, "No, the tjuringa is a sphere." What's a tjuringa? Well, a tjuringa is a mnemonic device. And so what Dr. Kelly calls these little handheld memory devices like this, she calls them portable memory objects. But to the cultures who still use these little memory boards, like a lot of Aboriginal Australian peoples, they're the tjuringa. Or it's the lukasa to the Luba people of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. We have forgotten what these neat little mnemonic objects are. But they didn't. Ironic, right? And so these items are small. You can hold them in your hand. And the way that they work is you encode your mythology into this device by associating parts of your story song with each bead or each shell or little design that's on your memory gizmo. And then each hole or curve or shell on your little memory board follows a sequence. And that means you know where the story starts and you know where it goes. And so what that means is that as you're singing your story song, as you touch the bumps and the wavy bits, you touch the shells or the beads, and then the color, the size, the shape, even the muscle memory of the movement of your fingers, all of those things together trigger your memory. And it helps you remember that story song and sing it the precise way it was handed down to you. And then you'd repeat these story songs over and over and over until you would get so familiar with your little memory gizmo that you could probably just imagine it from memory and touch it with your mind. Like, how rad is that, you know? So when Dr. Kelly was explaining portable memory objects, I immediately thought, oh, wow, this explains the quipu. And the quipu are these knotted cords that the Incans used to send messages across their empire. And I was right, because Dr. Kelly talks about the quipu. And I thought, actually this also explains the charms and the chords that are on the back of the drums used by the Sami people who were in the Scandinavian regions of the Arctic Circle. And once I understood how to identify these portable memory objects, I started seeing them all over the world. Like, these Roman objects aren't so mysterious when you think, look how easy it is to follow the sequence of one hole getting bigger than the next. Because, I mean, even if you can write, sometimes you still need to remember things. Lone Wolf's winter count, that was a mnemonic account of the Dakota's history. And everybody knows about the RongoRongo script from Rapa Nui, aka Easter Island. But did you know they used string figures to help them remember myths? Look, all of these objects, they may have different names, they may look different, they may work in different ways, but they all do the same thing. They help us remember. And listen up, because that brings us to something that is so crazy, because there is something else that we forgot about. And it's called mnemonic writing. See, in her book, Dr. Kelly talks about how RongoRongo writing, which are the symbols that are carved on the little wooden boards from Rapa Nui, right? AKA Easter Island. She said, RongoRongo is mnemonic. And everyone thinks that RongoRongo is this ancient writing that we don't know how to decode. And it's true. We don't know how to decode it. But it's not because it's writing. It's because it's mnemonic. And it's encoding information about the islanders' myths. Now, okay, as if that wasn't enough, you guys, I found out something else about RongoRongo while I was researching. Oh my gosh. It's nuts. We already knew that RongoRongo was mnemonic way back in the 1860s. Because that's when the Bishop of Tahiti was given one of these little wooden tablets with RongoRongo on it. And so he starts trying to find someone from Easter Island who can read it. And he finally finds someone and he's like, hey, can you read this? But he's really disappointed because he notices that when this guy's reading the tablet, he's like, this guy is just reciting. He's not reading at all. When I read about this in Catherine Routledge's book, The Mystery of Easter Island, oh my gosh, I was like, I was dumbfounded. The islander was reading the tablet because that's what those tablets were for. They were there to help you remember myths. But the bishop didn't know that. And so he keeps looking for someone to read these little tablets on his island. And he looks and looks and looks. And it takes a while. But finally, this bishop seems to figure out what's going on because he writes. Each symbol was a peg on which to hang much longer matter, which was committed to memory. Okay, so once I knew that RongoRongo was mnemonic writing, I kept having all sorts of epiphanies and I was making all sorts of connections. I go, oh, wow, this is why we can't decode things like the Phaistos disk or Linear A or the Indus Valley script or RongoRongo writing. It's because they're not written languages. They're mnemonic symbols. It's so ironic that the things that we invented to help us remember, we keep forgetting. Nobody remembers this ancient form of recording information into your memory before we had the ability to record it in writing. So do you get it? This is a huge deal. Archaeologists, researchers, scientists, they have no idea. But now you do. And the thing is, people still try to decipher RongoRongo because they don't have this backstory. They're not making this connection between myth, memory, these little memory gizmos, and sending messages across time. But Dr. Kelly did. She figured it out, and she linked all of these different ideas together. And the thing is, this isn't even a new discovery. Really, she's just reminding us what memory cultures around the world never even forgot. This is so neat, right? I don't know about you, but this completely rewrote how I understand myths. And it helped me see, illiterate people in a new way. Because for me, it shifted what it means to record information. And I want to get into that, just not right now. Okay, so onward. Now that we've seen how myths connect with memory and mnemonic devices to send information across time, you might be thinking, get to it, Sarah Booth, how does all this connect to ancient megalithic sites? Be patient, my little chickens, okay? Because in order to see how all of this connects to Stonehenge, Göbekli Tepe, and all these mysterious places around the globe, you need to know one more thing that Dr. Kelly learned from her Aboriginal Australian teachers and how she translated it to megalithic sites around the world. Because there's more to this story, and it gets even better.